Oh, hey. Pack your lunar luggage. Go get some space bucks. I'm Mike with Expedition Gaming. We're going on a galactic cruise.
In Galactic Cruise, you're going to be sending your workers out to the board to build spaceships, load those spaceships up with tourists, and then send those tourists on the cruise of a lifetime. Now, there is a whole lot to look at here. And rather than going through it in detail, let me give you a very quick tour, just so you have context of what we're looking at, and then we'll jump right into the action. Now, the very first thing to take a look at is this central area of the board right here. It's called the network. This is where you will send your worker out and choose the actions that you're going to take on your turn. Next up, we have all the components that you would need to build a spaceship. So you have engines and cockpits and blueprints for segments that will expand your ships. Over here, we have all the tourists that are waiting to go on their lovely cruises, and this is where you can get them scheduled up for that. Then on this side over here, you've got a market of cards, and these cards will help you bend the rules in your favor or provide resources, and those can come in pretty key at the right times. And then this area right here, these are goals that we're all working toward throughout the game. And then this area in particular is what's going to trigger the end of the game. Every time you launch a ship or complete one of these goals, you'll take one of your cubes and you'll drop it into these sections here, these little tiles here. We'll fill these tiles up from bottom to top, and once we fill up the third level, that will trigger the end of the game. So that's the 30,000 foot view of the main board. For our player boards, there's a lot to look at here. We're going to ignore most all of that for right now. But two things I want to draw your attention to. One is these workers right here. These are the two workers we have available to us at the start of the game. Then we have these advanced workers here. These can be unlocked as we go along. And that will increase the amount of actions that we can take before we need to start pulling workers back off the board. The second thing to take a look at is this section right here. These are our three primary resources we need to launch a ship. You've got food, oxygen, and fuel. And right up front, we can only store 2 of each of those resources. Now we can increase that storage by developing these out, which will be a benefit for how much we can hold, but there's also other good reasons to build those out, and we will see that as we go along. So for right now, I think that's about all we need to get going and jump into the action. Well, we are all set up for our 2-player game. It's going to be us against Mr. Alien here. Let's take a peek at our starting setup here. We have some money, we have some ads, which will be used to schedule up some cruises later. And importantly, we have one cruise ship. At this point, this cruise ship has 1 engine and 1 cockpit, and that's about the most boring cruise I can think of. So I think our first thing is going to be, let's get this thing built up and make it a pretty good cruise. So we will start that by sending a worker out to the network. And when we place our worker out at any of these locations, we will get to do 2 actions. Now, this is the action that we want to take to start. This will get us some blueprints. We need these blueprints, and then we'll need to build those blueprints into our ship. So that's the action for acquiring the blueprints. That's the one for building them into our ship. Now, I'd like to go here, but I'm actually going to start right over here, because I want this action first. This is building a development. And when we build a development, it will give us access to this action even when we're sitting over here. So we're going to get one of these gears placed right there, which will give us access to that. So this is a very helpful part to expand out what you have access to whenever you place a worker down. So our first out of 2 actions is to build a development. So we look down here. Here are our developments. The cost to build any development is listed right here. It's maybe a little bit dark to see, but this row costs 5, this costs 6, and this costs 7. Now you can pay that cost in all coins if you want, some credits, or you can split that cost up between credits and the resource from the track that it comes from. So if I wanted to build this one, it would cost 5 credits or 5 food or a combination of those two. But we have a trick up our sleeves. We have this agenda card, and it says that when we do build a development, we can pay 2 fewer. Well, it gives us this benefit here, which will let us gain extra reputation for building this. We're actually going to lose that benefit just because of the situation. But I feel like it's worth it to put out a really cheap development right away. So we're going to use this to pay for 2 of it. And we're actually going to build this development right here. So 5 minus the 2, it's going to take 3 credits. Also, you might notice on here, that icon in the lower left-hand corner, every agenda card has a resource icon. You can also spend that card at some point if you want, instead of the main benefit, to gain the resource that's listed right there. So if we were in a pinch, we could use this as fuel, but instead we're getting a 2 credit discount. And then we'll just place this on the discard pile. And now we will place our development out right here. That's going to link us to this location over there. We're the first one to put a development here, so that's going to gain us 1 reputation. Now this is the part we missed out on that agenda card. It said if supposing we came over here and built a development into here, we would actually gain additional reputation. Normally you wouldn't gain anything. First come, first serve on the reputation in a location, but we're missing that benefit. But like I said, I feel like it's worth it. So this will gain us 1 bump on the reputation track. And that is right here. Now, we started at 0 and Alien started at 1 for being the second player. Well, this will give us 1 bump up, so there we are tied. The reputation track can be used for a couple of things. There's a way you can tap into it to get some resources, but it also is what sets the price for using other people's developments. So for example, if we had come here, we actually could use that development to get access to this location here, but it would cost us 2 credits because we're sitting in this section of the reputation track. If we were here to here, it would only cost 1. And if we made it this or higher, we're actually so reputable that it's free to use other people's developments. But as it is, we've placed our own development here and given us access to this spot right here. So now for our second action, we're going to do this. We're going to acquire 2 of the blueprints. I think we're going to take the escape maze and the hollow dome. And then these get placed right here. Now you can fit up to 5 blueprints. And then once that action is done, these slide down and you refill these from the tray. Speaking of sliding down, I'll move this a little bit. Now, if you take a look at these blueprints, they have a cost associated with actually building them. It's free to take them, as you just saw. Acquiring blueprints is no problem. Then there's a cost to build it, and that cost is the credits listed there. These are the victory points that you'll score for these segments at the end of the game. These right here indicate what type of tourist would be interested in the activity that is listed on here. And of course, these are the tourists that are waiting, and we'll see how their colors come into play here in a little bit. But that's the layout of the segments. You acquire them through the action that we took, and then you'll take another action to build them into your ship here. One more note about the blueprints. There are 5 that are on offer, but if you don't like what's out there, if there's a specific kind you might be looking for, you can always pay 1 reputation and remove as many of these as you want and bring out new ones from the supply. And you can do that as many times as you want until you're either happy with the results or give up in reputation despair. But that's another use for your advancement on this reputation track. So that's our turn. We placed our worker out into the network. You take 2 different actions. You have access to the location you're at, plus whatever is connected to you through developments. If it's your own development, it's free. If it's someone else's development, you have to pay. And by the way, if there are multiple developments, you have to pay every owner of those developments. So it can get costly, and it's also very valuable to build your own network out here. So that's us. And now let's head over to Mr. Alien. For his first turn, he's going to come right over here and take this action, which is to schedule a cruise. Now, part of the game is building the ships. The other part of the game is getting people on those ships. And that's what the marketing board is all about. We have 4 different cruises that are available to go on. And when you schedule a cruise, you reserve one of those itineraries for yourself. So this action is simply taking your cruise consultant and reserving one of the cruises, which he has done with this one here. Now, to give you a little breakdown of these little itineraries and some important bits of info, one of them is the fuel cost. You'll see that this has 4 fuel icons. This cruise is going to require 4 fuel in order to launch it, whereas this cruise here has 2 fuel icons, so it's only going to take 2 fuel when you go to launch that cruise. These little icons that are right here indicate the number of days that this cruise will be traveling, and the colored icons indicate the destinations that this cruise will go on. The little stars there indicate that that's going to be a day in space, and then this one here says it's going to stop at a destination that's ideal for relaxing tourists. The blue icon there indicates it's going to be a stop that's ideal for family tourists. The orange ones are adventurous tourists. So that's the anatomy of the cruise itinerary. So scheduling a cruise is simply taking your cruise consultant, locking in a cruise for yourself, and then this icon here shows that you can flip one of these upgrade tokens that's located inside your launch tower. Whenever you flip one of these tokens, you'll gain the benefit that is printed on it, and then it will no longer be available to you for a little while. Eventually, when you launch a cruise, this token's going to go with that cruise, and you'll see why when we get to that. But then that token will go away. So, part of the decision in this moment is choosing which benefit you want to get and why. Now, these bottom upgrade tokens are bigger benefits, but they're one-time benefits because after it's finally removed, there's nothing left. Whereas these 4 upgrade tokens deal with sort of like, it's like an income. And whenever you're out of workers and you have to recall them, it's called calling a meeting. Whenever you do that, you're going to be able to gain some income, and you can choose from one of these 4 tiles here. After these are removed, that benefit becomes bigger. So that's part of the decision in this moment is, do you go for smaller benefits right now, but that you'll be able to repeatedly tap into throughout the game, or do you go for a bigger one-time benefit? In this case, Mr. Alien is going to go for the bigger one-time benefit of this tile right here. Now this one gives him the development action at a 4 credit discount. So this is actually very similar to the benefit that we got from one of our agenda cards. He's going to use this, and it'll get flipped over, and he's going to develop at a 4 credit discount. And he's going to develop this one here, which makes sense. The cruise that he has lined up has a fuel cost of 4, so he's going to need more storage space to be able to acquire all that fuel to go on the cruise. So he's developing this out at a 4 credit discount. It would normally cost 5 credits, so he's going to pay 1 credit for it. And of course, he could pay for that with fuel instead, but he's got a little more credits on hand than he does fuel, so that is how he's paying for it. And he will place it out at this location here, and again, being the first, he will get a bump on the reputation track, which will take him to right there. And for his second action, he's going to advertise for the cruise that he just scheduled. So again, back to the marketing board and getting people onto the ship. You do that by advertising for a cruise. Advertising is how you're going to get these tourists signed up for the cruises that are out here. Now, his cruise is going to have a destination that's great for relaxing guests. He's going to have a destination that's great for family guests. So he's going to advertise to these 2 tourists right here. Now, the cost to do this is paid in ads. And if you want to attract a tourist from this section here, it's going to cost 1 ad. This section here would be 2 ads. Anybody up here, you could bring over for 3 ads. And if for some reason the type of tourist that you're looking for is not available, you can always pay 4 ads and bring in any tourist that you want from the supply. But in this case, he wants to bring in both of these. They both cost 1 ad apiece. So he's going to pay his 2 ads that he started with. And he has advertised to them that he has enticed them to sign up for his cruise. So this will give you 2 benefits. Tourists will give you both money and reputation. They're basically going to pay to go on this cruise, and your cruise company is going to get a little more reputable for showing them a good time. Now, the amount of money that a tourist will pay is 1 credit for every destination on the cruise. Now, there are 2 destinations here because days in space do not count as a destination. So this tourist will pay 2 credits. This tourist will also pay 2 credits. So he'll get a total of 4 credits for this. Now, reputation is going to be based on, is that tourist going to have a destination that matches their desires? In this case, there's a purple destination and there is a blue destination. So this will earn 1 reputation, and this tourist will also earn 1 reputation. So in total, he'll get 4 credits and 2 bumps on the reputation track, and he has locked in some tourists who are ready to go on his cruise whenever he's finally ready to launch it. So here he will bump up twice on the reputation track, and he'll earn his 4 credits. And now it's back to us. I think our second turn, we are going to come up here and bump this guy out of the way. Now, if there is a worker in the spot that you want to go to, you get to bump them out of that spot. Now, normally, if you're playing whatever opponent you're playing against, if you bump them out, they get to bring their worker back into their break room and place it down, which makes that worker available to use in a future round. But also, you'll gain funding bonus. We talked about that just a minute ago. This little hand icon means that whenever a worker is placed in that spot, you can choose one of the funding bonuses listed over there and gain a benefit. So that would happen if this was, say, Mr. Alien. I bumped him out, he would get back and get a funding bonus. But in a 2-player game, we have these NPC workers that are out here to help tighten the board up and provide a little bit of interaction. So in this case, when I've bumped out one of the NPC workers, they simply move to the next space over in clockwise order. And if that space is empty, they simply occupy the new space. Just supposing the bump was like this, the NPC comes over here. The NPC would then actually bump out Mr. Alien's worker, which would come back and get that funding bonus. But as it is, we went here, which bumped the NPC over to there. And now we have access to these actions. These actions deal with the agenda cards, these guys over here. When you come here, you can take 2 cards from the display, or this is the action that will refill the display. In this case, we're going to take this action here, which is going to let us claim 2 of the cards that are over here. And I think we will go with this one and this one. This earnings boost says that when we do get to recall one of our workers, instead of taking one of the usual funding bonuses, we can discard this and, oh, you know what? Specifically, this says whenever we call a meeting, which means whenever we bring all of our workers back and sort of do a reset, instead of getting 2 little funding bonuses, we'll discard this card and gain 6 credits instead. Then this card here is going to boost the strength of one of the actions that we haven't seen out on the board yet, and I'll explain that a little bit better when we actually take that action. So those are our 2 cards. And again, these spaces don't refill, they actually stay blank until you activate that action right there, which is what refills that market. In addition to refilling the cards, you gain the benefit that's printed in the spaces that are being filled back up. So if we were to refill right now, we would gain 1 ad and 1 resource of our choice. But of course, as more of these cards get taken, you will gain a bigger benefit for refilling this market back up. Now we could do that because that's there, but instead, I think we're going to pay to use this development here to take our own development action. So again, the cost to do that is based on where you're at on the reputation track. Since we're within this space here, it's going to cost us 2 credits in order to use that development. But now we have access to this action, so we're going to develop. And I think we'll develop this guy right here, which will cost 5. And I think we're going to pay the entire thing in credits. That'll clean us out on credits, but we're also going to need resources to be able to get our cruise launched once the ship is ready. Instead of placing it in the network, I think I want to come up here and claim one of these technologies. We're going to claim automated systems. And just like in the network, we're the first ones to develop up here, which will give us a bump on the reputation track. Now this technology says that all blueprints, or rather ship segments, cost 1 fewer credit to build. So we've just given ourselves a nice discount throughout the course of the game that whenever we build one of these, they're each going to be a credit cheaper. Mr. Alien has some people lined up to get on a ship, but he doesn't have a ship. So he's going to start working on that. He's going to come out over to here and acquire a couple of blueprints. He's going to take the massage lounge and the 5D cinema. Store those there. Of course, these refill. And then for his second action, he's just going to tap into his same location again. And this action is simply called purchase supplies. You can do the top line, you can do the bottom line, you can do each of them once, or you can just do one of them, whichever you need. In this case, he's going to pay credit to gain 2 resources, and he's going to pay another credit to gain 2 ads. So he'll pay his 2 credits. That will gain him 2 ads back. And for the resources, he will simply take 2 fuel. Now it's back to us, but we are all out of workers. We have these expert workers here, but remember, these are locked until we unlock them. So at this point, we're out of workers, which means we have to call a meeting. First step to calling a meeting is you'll collect your workers from the network, bring them back, place them into your break room here. And again, for every one of these icons that you're covering up, you get to take what's called a funding bonus. Now in our case, normally we would choose, since we brought 2 workers back, we would choose any of these funding bonuses. You can choose the same bonus multiple times if you want. And of course, if we had some of our experts unlocked, they would be coming back as well, giving us even more funding bonuses. In this case, we're going to use this earnings boost agenda card. And you're reminded that this can only be used during the call a meeting action. And when we call the meeting, we're going to forfeit all of our funding bonuses and instead gain 6 credits. So we got a little money back. That will get discarded right there. Now the other part of calling a meeting is after you have recalled all of your workers and gained any applicable funding bonuses, you then can take one more action out in the network in any action that is adjacent to one of your developments. This is one of the other reasons why developments can be really important to have out on the board, because when you call a meeting, you're going to take an action out there, and that increases the amount of options that are available to you. With that in mind, we have a development here, which means we have access to all 4 of these actions. Now, for this action, you don't place a worker out there. You just simply activate one of the actions that's adjacent to one of your developments. So, with that in mind, we're actually going to go ahead and take the development action again and keep expanding out our network. And I think we will develop this one out here. That's going to cost 6. So all that hard-earned money that we just got is now gone. We're going to have to find a way to get some more. But we're going to place this out right here. Again, being the first, we'll get a bump on the reputation track. And we're starting to expand our network just a little bit more. Now, we obviously could have developed this out for a little bit cheaper, but one of the reasons why I'm focusing on these 2 tracks here is we can unlock this expert worker by paying money to do so. The cost is dependent on how many developments are left in these 2 tracks here. So you can see right here, you'll add up the number of developments in these 2 tracks, multiply that by 2, and that's how much it costs to hire this expert worker. So by putting that development out there, we just made it a little bit cheaper to get this expert worker available to us. And Mr. Alien is likewise out of workers, so he will be calling a meeting as well, bringing these 2 back. And for each of his funding bonuses, he's going to activate this, which will let him take any one of these resources. He'll take a food and an oxygen. And then he only has 1 development out in the network, so he has access to all 4 of those actions. He's going to go with this one, which is going to let him draw the 2 remaining agenda cards. Now our situation, we really need some credits. I want to get our ship built here, but we're going to need to spend some money to do that. So let's see if we can earn some credits. Let's head on over. We'll go right here so that we can schedule a cruise. And I think we're going to advertise for it as well. So let's schedule this one up right here. And then let's tap into this token right here, which will give us 4 credits. And then for the advertising, I think it's advertised to this guy down here, which is going to cost 1 of our 2 ads. And then we'll bring him up to the cruise that we just scheduled. There is 1 destination in this itinerary, so he will gain us 1 more credit, and that destination matches what he would prefer, so that'll gain us 1 reputation as well. So there's that. And 1 more credit. And for Alien's turn, he's going to come out here, see if he can get a little caught up with his developments. So he's going to develop out this one here, which will cost 5. He's going to pay all of that with credits. Now there's a spot left out here to gain some reputation, but instead of that, he's going to build right there. And then for his second action, that will give him access to these spots over here. He's going to take this action right there. And that's going to let him refill the agenda cards. So again, you're going to fill in any of the empty spaces, and for every icon that you cover up, you will gain that benefit. So he's going to gain 1 rep, 1 ad, 1 credit, and a resource of his choice. And you may have noticed the board gives you a little reminder of what those benefits are that are printed under the cards. With the cards that just came out here, I think I see a nice little combo. So I think we're going to come out over to here, take this action, which is going to let us grab 2 cards, and we'll go with these 2. And then the bottom action where we can refill the cards, we're actually going to use the fresh ideas that we just got. And this says that when you're taking that action, you can draw 1 agenda card, then discard all remaining agenda cards. We'll replace all those cards and gain all 4 agenda refill bonuses. So, pretty nice. And I think for that, we're going to draw this card. Then we will discard that. Bring out 4 new ones. And then, again, we will gain all 4 refill bonuses, which is going to be 1 ad, 1 credit, a resource of our choice, and we'll just go with fuel. And then 1 more bump on the reputation track. Speaking of the reputation track and the agenda cards, another use for your reputation is when you are drawing cards. Of course, as we've seen, you can draw from what's on offer, or you can spend 1 reputation to draw the top card from the discard pile, which can be pretty helpful. Some of these cards can be very powerful, and you might want that ability. So you can always lose a reputation to take the top card off of the discard pile. For Alien's next turn, he's going to come over here, bump the NPC. And he's going to acquire a new ship. When you do that, you can choose from any of these pairings here. You'll have a cockpit and an engine. So you can choose this set or this set or this set. And the sets that you choose, there's a couple things to note. Number one, the engines will always give you an immediate benefit as soon as you acquire the ship. And then the cockpits are important because they will score points differently. They have different scoring criteria on them. So in this case, Mr. Alien is going to grab this set right here. And add that in. His immediate bonus is he will gain 2 funding bonuses as indicated right there. So then you flip this this engine over to indicate it's been used. The 2 funding bonuses he's going to grab are 2 credits. Then we'll refill that. Now you might be wondering why he got a second ship when he hasn't even built his first. And that's because he needed the money to build. Because he wants to build these blueprints. This action allows you to build 2 segments into your ship. It's going to cost the amount printed there. So this one's going to cost 5. This one's going to cost 4. And with the 2 funding bonuses he got, he has exactly the 9 that he needs to build these blueprints. So he pays that. And then he gets to add both of these segments to his ship. Doesn't matter what order they go in. And now you might notice that with these built, it creates this little space here with a meeple icon on it. That means he now has room for a passenger on this ship. Another thing you may have noticed is in the blueprint row here, there's these printed costs. There's reputation and credit cost. When you're taking this action to build 2 segments onto your ship, you actually can build straight from the blueprint row by paying both the cost of the blueprint as well as the additional cost to the right, which obviously is a little more expensive, but it does save you an extra step of having to acquire the blueprint and then build it. So a little more costly, but could be efficient for you in the right circumstances. Well, we are all out of workers, so it is time to call another meeting. Collect these guys, bring them back, and they are each going to give us a funding bonus, and I think for each one of them we'll take a single resource. So we'll just bring all these up to 2, and then out in the network we can now choose actions from any of these 3 locations. We're going to go with this one here. We're going to build segments onto our ship as well. Now remember that we have the automated systems up there, which gives us a 1 credit discount on all of our segments that we build into our ship. So instead of this costing 3, that's going to cost 2. This will cost 1 instead of 2. So we have a total of 3 credits needed to build those segments into our ship. We'll pay that. And likewise, the order that you stack these up in your ship doesn't matter. But creating those little rooms for your passengers, that does matter. So we've now got room for somebody on our ship. Alien is likewise out of workers, so he is going to call a meeting. He'll bring these guys back. And for his 2 funding bonuses, he's going to take 2 credits since he is out of money. And then Out here, he's going to activate this location here to draw 2 agenda cards. It looks like he's going with Windfall, which lets you gain each agenda bonus. The refill bonus you receive twice, and then this one, Confidence Boost. You can gain the next 4 bonuses listed to the right, or the previous 4 bonuses listed to the left of your reputation marker. Now, I didn't talk about this just yet, but this is one of the other main uses for the reputation track. You can see all these little icons listed under there. You've got credits, you've got ads, and you've got resources. If you're ever really in a pinch, you can tap into the reputation track to gain these resources. And what you do is you choose one of those 3 types, either credits, either ads, or these, and then you can decrease your reputation marker as much as you want, and for every one of these benefits that you pass over, you'll gain that. So as an example, say right now Mr. Alien is really hurting for money and he needs a couple of credits. He can declare credits, he can slide his reputation past that one, and then all the way past that one, and he would gain 2 credits. Now, that's costly on your reputation, but again, sometimes you really need it in a pinch. You don't have to go down that far. You can go down as much or as little as you want, but that's how you tap into the track for those bonuses. Unless, of course, you have something like Confidence Boost, which is going to let you gain the 4 bonuses to the left or to the right of your marker. So, pretty good card there. Well, we have arrived at a big moment of the game. We are going to launch our first ship. Now, on your turn, one of the options for placing a worker is launching a ship. So this will be the action that you do on your turn. And there's a pre-flight checklist to make sure that you are ready for the launch. First thing you want to check on is that you have a cruise scheduled, which we do. You want to make sure that you have one ship built with at least 1 cabin, which we do. You want access to the resources that are needed to sustain that cruise, which we do. And then the other thing you want to check is that you have guests who are ready to go. Now, there is a thing called a last-minute sale. And if you have not already advertised to a cruise and gotten tourists lined up, you can do what's called a last-minute sale. A last-minute sale works very similarly to this here, where you can pay for ads to bring in tourists from the supply. Now, when you do this, you don't get any money or reputation like you normally would, but you can add somebody else into your ship at a 4 ad cost. And it's printed pretty small, but you're reminded of this at the very bottom right here. So to start the launch of a ship, you will place your worker onto the elevator here, and we'll begin a T-5 countdown. For T-5, the step there is to take the cruise that you have scheduled. Your consultant goes back. We're going to take the cruise and our tourists, and you will place the itinerary just above right there. Then you'll take any tourists going on, and they will occupy any cabins that are on the ship. And I apologize. This reminder right here is not for last-minute sales. This is a reminder that if you don't have enough room in your ship here, if you don't have enough cabins to be able to fit all of the tourists who you had scheduled for this cruise, you will lose 2 reputation for them not being able to board the ship. It's not the best look to overbook the cruise. So with these steps taken care of, we move on to T-4. For this step, This is where we'll take one of our cubes and we will add it into that spot right there. And as I said before, every time you launch a cruise or complete one of these objectives, we will add our cubes into here. And as these fill up, it will race us towards the end of the game. Once this does fill up for each one of these segments, you've got each of these segments here. Once they do fill up, we'll do sort of a intermediate scoring and then move into our next turns. But for right now, that's all we will do for T-4. T-3, we're going to pay all the resources required to be able to send the cruise out into space. The first is we're going to pay food. The amount of food that you have to pay is equal to the number of passengers plus 1. The plus 1 is for the pilot that's going to pilot the ship. So in this case, we have 1 passenger and we will have 1 pilot. So we have a food cost of 2. So we pay those. The fuel cost is equal to the number of segments that are on the ship. This does not include the cockpit or the engine. We have 2 segments inside the ship, so we have a fuel cost of 2. I'm sorry, an oxygen cost, not fuel. Talking about oxygen there. That is equal to the segments on the ship. And finally, the fuel cost is dictated by the itinerary of the cruise. We have a short little cruise here, so we only have a fuel cost of 2. So that is paid. T-2. This is where your cockpit is going to score you points. As we said earlier, every cockpit has a different scoring criteria. Every starting cockpit has the same scoring criteria. So you can see this over on Mr. Alien's. His starting cockpit is going to score the same way. Scoring criteria for these guys is you'll gain 1 victory point for every segment across all of your ships. So not just the one that's going on the cruise, but all of the ships in your fleet. You add up all of the segments you have built into those ships and you'll score a point for each one of them. So we have 2 segments, which will score us 2 points. T-1. Now we look at our launch tower. And when we scheduled the cruise up, we had to take one of these upgrade tokens and flip it. We went with this one. You now take that upgrade token and place it onto the engine of your ship. This will come into play once we get to our destination. We're going to drop this off at one of our cruise destinations to give us a little bonus once we get there. So at T-1, we add that upgrade token to our ship. And then, oh, you know what? I'm sorry, I forgot to point something else out. At the time that we score the cockpit, the very first time that you launch a ship, you get to flip over your cockpit. You may notice that there's a -5 listed on this cockpit. If this ship never launched throughout the course of the game, we would actually lose 5 points for that. But since we're launching for the first time, we'll flip this over. And it's probably really hard to make out, but there's a little outline right there that your worker will now sit there as the pilot steering the ship, which means your worker's going to be tied up as long as this cruise is in flight, which means you have less workers to take actions. So it's a little bit of a balance there where you got to manage your workers knowing that you're going to be short one as long as they are out there piloting the ship. Then the next thing that we do is we come back to the market board and we need to add a new cruise itinerary, which will come from the tray here. Now that this is out, the tourists will adjust. And each type of tourist that is listed on the new cruise will move down a little bit. So all of our family-oriented guests will move down. All of our adventurous guests will move down. And then the next thing that happens is we will add more tourists back into the offer here. The number that we add in is equal to the number of guests that just took off on our cruise. So we're going to add 1 back to this board because 1 just left. The type that we add is based on the cruise that just came out. You work your way left to right based on the destinations. Our first destination shown here is a family. So we will add 1 family back into the top there. And that's it. We've launched our first ship. It's off and away. We've gone through all the steps. We've paid our resources. We've gotten our itinerary lined up, our guests into the cabins. Our captain is on board piloting the thing, and we've got our token ready to be dropped off. Now, what we haven't seen yet is anytime you have a cruise in space, the first part of your turn, every turn, is to advance this cruise to its next destination. So for as long as this cruise is in space, you're going to get to the next destination and interact with that. And we'll see how that looks here when it comes back to the start of our next turn. But for right now, we got our cruise out there and we're all set to go. And again, launching a ship is the action that you'll take for your entire turn. So that's it for us. And Mr. Alien, he is still wanting to expand his ships over here, but he's very low on money. So he's going to head out to this location right here, which will bump the NPC worker. Now this location deals with the silo that's over here. The storage silo is a place where anybody can come and get some resources. And that is done through this top action right here. This top action just says, take any 3 resources that are available in the silo. At the start of the game, there's 2 of each resource. So you would just decrease it by 1 for whatever resources you wanted. In that case, that would be one food and 2 fuel. The bottom action is how we add resources into the silo. And the way that this action works is you have to discard an agenda card from your hand. You don't get anything from that card, it's just discarded. And then you'll choose 1 resource and max it out in the silo. And for each resource added that way, you'll gain 1 credit. So in this case, if he chose food, he would be adding 1, 2, 3 food into the silo, which would give 3 credits. And in addition, you always earn 1 reputation for doing that. So that's the action he's going to take. So he will discard this card out of his hand in order to take that action. But he also has commissions and fees. And this says that when taking that action, he'll gain 1 additional credit for every resource that was added and 1 additional reputation. It does specify that this card itself does not count as the required discard that the action wants you to do. So he will add fuel up to the top, and that's going to add 1, 2, 3 resources, which would normally pay out 3 credits. But with his commissions and fees, he'll get a total of 6 credits, as well as his 1 + 1, 2 bumps on the reputation track. And that takes him into the next category. So it's going to be a little bit cheaper for him to utilize other people's developments. So that was his first action. Discard the card, refilled the silo. His second action, he's going to use his network here and draw the 2 remaining cards that are on display. And it's back to us. And now, for the first time in the game, we have somebody starting their turn with a cruise ship that has been launched. Anytime you start your turn with a cruise ship that's out in space, the first thing that you do on your turn is advance that cruise ship along its itinerary, take care of any benefits that you get from that, and then phase 2 of your turn is to take your 2 actions like you normally would, or potentially call a meeting if you're out of workers. So as long as your turn is starting with a cruise in space, your turn is going to have 2 phases. So here we are, we have our cruise out, it's launched. The first thing that happens is you advance the pilot to the next stop in the itinerary. And there are 3 types of stops. There are days in space, there are actual destinations, and then there's returning to Earth. And all 3 of these work a little bit differently. Our first is going to be a day in space. So we put our pilot there to indicate that's where we're at in the journey. Now, a day in space is where the guests get to take advantage and enjoy any of the amenities that you have built into your cruise ship. Guests will always give you a benefit for being able to enjoy these amenities. Now, the type of benefit that they give you can vary from game to game, and you'll find that located up here in the corner. In this case, adventurous guests are going to give us an ad, relaxing guests would give you some credits, and family guests will give you a resource. And these tiles here are shuffled up at the beginning of the game. There's other benefits that could potentially come out as well, but for this game, this is the configuration that we ended up with. So in our case, our adventurous guest would give us an ad for every activity that they get to enjoy. So the way that you figure this out is you look at the number of guests that you have that have a color that matches the activity that they like, and they'll give you that many benefits. So in this case, 1 adventurous guest, which has 1 adventurous activity to do, that will give us 1 ad. As an example, say we had another cabin built onto this ship and we were able to carry 2 adventurous guests. Each of these would then give us an ad for that 1 activity. Or potentially, let's say we had several orange activities, several adventurous activities. We would count up the number of those. Say we had 3 of those. Each one of these guests would give us 3 ads. So you can see that that's one of the decisions that you're trying to make when you build out your ship. Do you really specialize in certain types of activities and then bring that type of guest on board to get a lot of benefits? Or in this case, like we've done, we've sort of built for variety. We can take any guest on our cruise and they would enjoy the amenities that we have put in here. So this family would find something to do in the Holodome. But in this case, we have 1 guest enjoying 1 activity, which will give us that 1 credit. So that's a day in space. Now, normally, our phase of the cruise would be done and we would come over here and take both of our actions like normal. However, we have a little trick up our sleeves. One of our agenda cards here is this expedited schedule. And this says, after you have advanced and triggered the stop, you can advance 1 more space and trigger the next stop as well. So we're going to get to enjoy the next stop on our cruise here. So we'll advance the pilot over to here, and now we arrive at a destination. In this case, it is an adventurous destination, which is this right here. Now, the very first thing that you do when you arrive at a destination is you look to see, do you still have one of your upgrade tokens floating around right here? In this case, we do. So we're going to drop it off into one of these spots here and gain its benefit. Now, on some of these cruises, you've seen that there are multiple destinations on that cruise. You don't have to drop your upgrade token off at the first destination. You could save it for a later one, but just know that you do have to drop this token off at some point throughout your trip. So in this case, we only have the one destination. So this is going to come out, and we're going to lock it into either one of these three spaces, and they'll each give us a different benefit. This benefit here says that we could gain a funding bonus for every one of the cubes that we have already socketed in right there. So that would give us one funding bonus, and then you would get an ongoing benefit that says anytime you add another cube in over there, you would gain a funding bonus. This upgrade here says that from now on, our ships can hold up to 4 modules or segments inside there. Normally we are limited to 3 per ship, and you're limited to a total of 3 ships. This would let us carry 4 ships, and each ship could have 4 segments. So you could have a bigger fleet. This is the upgrade that we're going to go with right now. So we're going to socket that in right there. This says that we can choose any of our upgrade tokens here, gain the benefit of it, and then immediately remove it from the game. So in this case, we're actually going to go with this one right here. We're going to gain the benefit from it, which is going to give us 1 credit, and then we immediately remove it from the game. This saves us the step of having to get this token loaded onto a ship, get that ship out and dropped off somewhere. So the very next time we want to take this funding bonus, we're getting 2 credits instead of 1. Now you could do that down here as well, gain the benefit instantly and remove it from the game. The reason why you want to clear these ones out is these tiles dictate the cost of unlocking this advanced worker. Just like over here, the price of this advanced worker is set by the number of developments that are still present. The cost of this advanced worker is set by the number of these upgrade tokens still present. It costs 3 credits for every token still present. So if we wanted to hire this advanced worker right now, it would cost us 9 credits. So we could potentially grab 4 ads and just get rid of this thing. And then if we wanted to hire this advanced worker, it would only be 6 credits. So that's why this can be a pretty powerful thing. But I think I like using it to get quick access to a bigger credit funding bonus. So we lock that in there. So that's step 1 of the destination. Put in an upgrade token if that's what you want to do, or save it for a future destination. Second step, all of your guests that are on the cruise ship have the option of visiting this destination. And if it's a destination that they prefer to be at, it's a little bit cheaper to entice them out onto the location. Adventurous guests, you'll have to pay 1 ad to get them out. All other guests, you'd have to pay 2 ads to get them off the ship and out doing the destination. In this case, we have the 1 adventurous guest, so we're going to pay 1 ad to get him to engage with our little activity out here. Then, for every guest that is out and enjoying the activities, you'll score some victory points. You will score 3 plus 1 for each of the upgrade tokens that are listed there. So in this case, we're going to have 4 victory points times 1 guest. That'll give us 4 more points. Now, you don't have to take the guest off the ship, but it kind of makes thematic sense. So that is what it looks like to stop at a destination. Drop an upgrade token off, entice your guests out, and score some points. That will end our cruise advancement part of our step. Now we'll go into our regular actions like normal. And I think since we're pretty close to having this pilot come back and this cruise is going to be done, it might be kind of nice to schedule up our next cruise. So I think we'll take these actions right here. We will schedule a cruise, and I think the cruise that we want to go with is the new one that came out. So again, you take your cruise consultant, lock in the cruise, and then we're going to get to use one of our upgrade tokens. And I think we'll also use this discounted development action. So we will, at a 4 credit discount, put this development out here. So that's going to cost us 2 credits. And again, this is going to make it cheaper to get this advanced worker hired out. I think where we place this at, given the fact that we have not gotten any of these advancements out, fuel might be a little tricky for our cruises. So I think we should grab this technology up here, which will give us a bump on the reputation track. And this technology is the space elevator. It says that all launches require 1 fewer fuel. So that's going to make it a little bit easier for us to pay for the fuel on all of our cruises. And then I think for our second action, we are going to do, we're going to advertise for the cruise that we just scheduled up. I think we're going to grab these 2 here. So we're going to spend our last 2 ads. We'll bring both of these in. And now they'll give us credits equal to the number of destinations. There are 2 destinations, so they'll each give us 2 credits for a total of 4 credits. And then they each have a matching destination that suits their style, so they're each going to give us a reputation. So we'll get 4 credits and 2 reputation. Alien is up, and he is going to head out to right here, which will bump the NPC. Now the NPC will not bump themselves. They will skip over a space they are currently occupying and go to the next either open space or space that an actual player is in. So in this case, they will just go to right there. The first action that Alien is going to do is to tap into our development so that he can acquire the blueprints that he's looking for. And again, where he is at on the reputation track, it's going to cost him 1 credit. So he will spend that, and this actually goes to us. Now he can acquire blueprints, and the ones that he is going to grab are these 2 right here. He's got the burger bar and the casino. And then his next action will be to build those segments into his ship. The top one costs 2, the bottom one costs 3, for a total of 5. And then he can add those in. He's going to add that one into that ship. And that one there. Now, a point of clarification. When we were talking about this benefit right here that lets your ship have a total of 4 segments instead of 3, it's important to note that your cockpit and your engine never count toward those segments. So this ship currently is maxed out with these 3 segments that are built in there. If this were to ever get acquired, then obviously he could fit 4 in there. But for right now, this is what a completed ship looks like. Coming back to us, our cruise has reached the end of its journey and is returning to Earth. So for this, all you do is you simply return the pilot back to your break room, gaining a funding bonus as usual. And I think we'll take the 2 credits that we just recently discovered for ourselves. Then you discard the cruise, clear the tourists off your ship, and now your ship is ready to launch again if you can, or once it's back, you can actually continue building new segments into it. Let me direct your attention just quickly to this section of the player board. This is actually a concise breakdown of how you do each of the phases of your turn. So for example, in phase 1, when you advance your ships, it'll show you if you've landed at a destination that you're putting out a progress token onto a matching destination, and then you can pay ads to get your tourists out there, or what to do for a day in space, or just like we did with returning to Earth. And then phase 2, it reminds you of placing a worker out at a location you haven't already been, taking 2 actions, and using developments to gain access to other actions. Or a reminder that your entire phase 2 would be launching a ship, or potentially calling a meeting. Now the one phase we haven't talked about yet is this right here. And this is called Accomplishing Company Goals. And it references the goals that are out in each game. So that we have this section right here. And every game you could have a different configuration of goals you might be going for. This is the default one that you start with. But at the end of every turn, you are supposed to be checking to see if you have accomplished one of these goals. And like this first goal here wants you to have built out 6 developments. This second goal here wants you to have 2 complete sets of icons across all of your ships. So you'll notice on our cruise ship here, we have 1 complete set. That's actually why we built that. So we are halfway to getting this one done. This goal here wants you to have dropped off upgrade tokens on 2 different destination types. So again, we're halfway to that one. So in step 3 of your turn, you're going to look and see if you've accomplished one of those goals. And if you have, you'll take the progress cube that's associated with that column and you will add it to the progress track. By doing so, as we know, this will move the game toward the end game timer. It also reveals these wing symbols. Now these are important because once this progress track fills up, we're going to trigger the interim scoring. Interim scoring is going to be the number of cubes times the number of these symbols that are showing. So the more cubes and the more symbols you can have, you're going to score more points during the interim scoring. And of course, the earlier you can do this, the better, because you're going to score 3 different times, which means, the earlier you do this, the more often through the game you'll be able to actually score those. So that is step 3 of your turn. Now for us, we have just finished up step 1, heading into step 2. Now thinking about completing out another set of these icons here, let's grab some blueprints. But before we do that, we are going to head over here to bump out the NPC, and we're going to finally hire an expert worker. Now again, that cost is determined by developments or by upgrade tokens. This one will be our cheapest. 2 credits per development still left here, so it's going to cost a total of 4 credits. And then we unlock this expert worker. They will enter into our break room and we will gain a funding bonus as usual. And once again, I think we will take the 2 credits. Now, expert workers function just like regular workers, with one exception. They have a little bonus, and that is shown right here. Whenever you send an expert worker out and they bump another worker, in this game, you gain a funding bonus. Now this can change from game to game. There's a stack of tiles that you can shuffle up, and so every game, expert workers might have a little bit different benefit. In the default game, that is the benefit you'll gain. Expert worker bumping lets you grab a funding bonus. So that's action 1. Action 2, we are going to tap into our development and grab a couple of blueprints. And let's grab the fun park and the dive deck. That'll actually give us exactly one more set that we can build into our ships. Now we could build one of these blueprints into this ship. There's still room for it. But to get the second one built, we're going to need to get another cockpit and engine set. And Alien is out of workers, so he's going to call a meeting. Pull these two back. And for each funding bonus, he's going to take an ad. So we'll get 2 more ads. Then he has, with his developments, access to those 3 locations. He's going to activate this one here. And he's currently sitting on this windfall card, which says when he takes that action, he'll gain each agenda refill bonus twice. So he'll discard that, and that's going to get him 2 reputation, 2 more ads, 2 credits. Now this one, he's going to lose. He could take 2 resources, except for the fact that he is completely full, so he's not going to be able to tap into that. Now with our expert worker available, we can take an extra action without having to call a meeting back. So we're going to carry on with our getting our segments built out. And we're going to get ourselves a cockpit and engine. Let's take this set right here. I'm mainly looking at this one because this cockpit will also score depending on how many complete sets that you have across all your segments. So that seems to pair nicely. So again, you gain the engine bonus right away. So this will give us 2 ads and a resource of our choice. And we'll take a food. This will flip. And this will stay on the negative point side until we launch it. Then our second action. Oh, you know what? We forgot to refill. Now on to our second action, which will let us build these segments into our ship. This one cost 4, this one cost 1 for a total of 5. But remember, we have the automated systems, which will discount each one of these by 1. So we're going to pay a total of 3. Then I think we should add this segment into this. Oh my goodness, we are out of space. This game is massive. I'm thinking to build that segment into this ship here so that we have 2 of family-oriented activities on the ship. And when we look over there, we've got our 2 family guests scheduled up for the cruise. So that'll help us get more scoring out of that. And then because that is now at max, we have to build this one over here. And then we'll put it in there. That's our 2 actions. And now, as we look to step 3 of our turn, we actually have completed this goal right here. We have 2 complete sets of icons. We got purple, orange, blue, purple, orange, blue. So, with this completed, we will take this cube off of here and add it to there. Now the next thing, this increases. So if Mr. Alien wants to accomplish this, he's now going to need 3 complete sets. So there is definitely a race to get this done before your opponents, because as they accomplish it, it gets a little bit harder for you to get it done. And now we are one either launch or company goal away from triggering our first interim scoring. And kind of out of room. I think maybe we'll try to stick stuff like this for now. We'll see. Okay. As the on-screen notes indicated earlier, Mr. Alien actually beat us to the punch on this. And this is the point where I have finally realized it. Looking over at his ships, he's got 2 orange, 2 blue, 2 purple. He's had that for a moment. So, looking back over to the goals, the only thing we need to change is his cube needs to be up here instead. This is pushed up to 3, which means we need 1 more set if we're going to accomplish this goal. Sorry about that, but we haven't had any kind of effect that would have been bothered by just yet, so we're all right. Although now we got to push for another complete set here. It does make me think, though, that we should try to get out a couple of developments or potentially drop off an upgrade token. We need to get a flight out there stat if we want to try to get one of our own let me show you here. If we want to try to get one of our own extra wing symbols before we do this first interim scoring. So pressure's on a little bit, but guess what? It's too late because Mr. Alien is excited to launch his very first cruise, which is going to put that final cube into the progress track, triggering the interim scoring. As he works his way through the pre-flight checklist, he sees that he has everything he needs and he's ready to launch. I'm going to show you something else. This employee handbook. This thing is awesome. Talking about the pre-flight checklist, it's listed right here. Everything that you need to remind yourself of to be ready for a launch. Is your cruise scheduled? Do you have ships, or does you have cabins available? Do you have access to resources? And make sure that you have guests lined up for the cruise, or you could do the last minute sale. And again, this handbook is so helpful. There's obviously a lot going on in this game, and almost everything that you would want a reminder of is listed in here pretty nicely. You have the turn structure detailed out pretty good there. You have all the actions described nicely for you. Anytime actions. In here, this I think is really helpful. There's a section on how do I score points. It shows you ways to get points during the game or at the end of the game. This is very helpful in a game like this where there's a lot of interconnected things. How do I get? It shows you ways that you can get reputation, money, ads, resources, and then it even shows you how you can use it. It'll explain the company goals. Over here, it walks you through the steps of launching a ship, adding a cruise. It even describes these upgrades that are listed right there if you want a reminder of what they do. So very, very well laid out, very great employee handbook. So looking at that pre-flight checklist, Mr. Alien is indeed ready to launch. So he will take one of his workers and head into T-5. First thing we're going to do is grab the cruise that he has scheduled up. And add that right there. And then, of course, his consultant will go back. And the guests that he has lined up will now board the ship. And again, these little half icons don't mean anything. You have to have a completed one for there to be a cabin available. So now his ship is loaded. No need for any last minute sales. T-4. He will add in a cube to the progress track. And of course, that's going to trigger our interim scoring. T-3, he's going to pay all the resources necessary. So he's going to need 3 food, 1 for each guest, and 1 for the pilot. He has 2 food right here. he can pay for that third food a variety of ways. Unfortunately, well, he could tap into this development here, which says all launches require one fewer food, and that would cost him 1 coin. And he does not have a fuel card, so his two options here are either to drop down on the reputation track or pay to tap into our technology up there, which allows all launches to require one fewer fuel. Now he's contemplating dropping down here, but there's a good reason why it would be better for him to give us 1 coin than to lose a spot on the reputation track. If you look over here at the goals, during interim scoring, as we said, you're going to multiply the number of cubes times the number of these symbols. Whoever's in the lead on the reputation track considers themselves to have 1 additional cube inside here. So if he were to drop down, we would be in the lead and he would lose out on that extra cube during scoring. So for him, he feels like it's worth it to pay us the coin so that he can stay in the lead on that track. Resource requirements are met. T-2. He will flip over the cockpit if it's the first launch, and then this cockpit will score. Again, our starting cockpits are all the same. This one says that you'll get 1 point for every ship segment across your entire fleet. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 ship segments, which will give him 4 points. T-1, he takes his upgrade token, adds it to the engine, and we have liftoff. That is now the pilot, and the very last step that you do here is to add in a new cruise. We add that one in there. And now we're going to advance the guests and add new ones in. For each purple destination, well, rather, for this purple destination, all purple guests, all relaxing guests will move down 1 space. For the adventurous destination, all adventurous guests move down 1 space. You could thematically think of this as the cruise companies are starting to offer some adventures that these types of customers are interested in. So they're a little bit easier to entice onto your cruise. So now we're going to add in new guests, and that again is going to be equal to the number of guests that were scheduled for the cruise. 2 guests were added, so now we're going to bring 2 guests in. Going left to right, we add in based on matching colors. So we're going to add in 1 relaxing and 1 adventurous guest. And these will get added in right up here. With his ship fully launched, that brings him to the end of his actions, and he has no new goals completed. So that will end his turn. Now we look to this section here, and we see that we are completely full. So that will trigger what is called an annual general meeting. We will do our scoring right here. And as we discussed, it will be the number of wing symbols times the number of cubes that we have showing. So for us, because we didn't get our goal accomplished, we only have 1 wing symbol showing, and we only have 1 cube up there. So it's going to be 1 times 1 for a whopping 1 point. Mr. Alien did a little bit better. He was able to get another wing out, so he's got 2 wing symbols showing. He has 2 cubes here, and he is in the lead on the reputation track, as shown here, which means he has 1, 2, 3 cubes times 2 wings. So he's going to get a total of 6 points. And also, by the way, if we were ever tied on the reputation track, we would both get to add in extra cubes. But as it was, he was in the lead, so got a good amount of points. Now, normally this would finish the annual general meeting, but in a 1 or a 2-player game, you have some extra steps. And that's indicated with these little icons right here. We're going to upgrade the neutral workers into expert workers. And for this first annual general meeting here, we're going to upgrade one worker, and it's going to be this one. You start in the middle, work your way around clockwise, and the NPC now has an expert worker that is out there. Now, expert NPC workers are going to function just the same as regular ones, with one exception. They will skip over any empty spaces. So you should start seeing some more bumping happen when expert workers are involved. So that one comes out there. And then the next thing that we do is we're going to add in 3 more developments to tighten up the board a little bit. Now for this, you take these tiles. These are actually the technologies that you could have throughout the game. The ones that we see at the top here. These can be shuffled up and randomize the technologies that are out beyond the 4 starting ones. But the reverse side of this is how we tighten up the board here for additional developments. So we take these, we give them a bit of a shuffle, and then in a 1 to 2 player game, we are going to add in these developments here. Now, if, like this one, there's already a development in that location, we skip it. In this case, that is saying that this technology should get a neutral development. There's already one there, so we will skip that. This one here wants a development, and it does not currently have a neutral development, so we'll put that there. And then this location right here also gets a neutral development. This will be the first one that goes in, and so it prioritizes the space that would give reputation. So then we just take this tile, we remove it out. It will not be part of the selection for next time. And during the next general meeting, we'll do the same thing. We'll upgrade that NPC to an expert worker, and then we'll shuffle these up, put out some more neutral developments to fill that board up a little bit more. So that is the annual general meeting in its entirety. We're going to keep cranking away until we have filled up these the progress track 2 more times like that. We'll have 3 more progress cubes here and there, and then we will trigger the end of the game. And this is the point where I finally realize that this offer was never refilled. On-screen notes should have indicated that. We should have filled this up when Mr. Alien activated his development here, but we got a little carried away. So these are the new ones that have come out. Well, with our turn, we are completely out of workers. So we're going to bring these guys back for the meeting. And for the funding bonus, for all 3 of these, we're going to just go ahead and take 2 credits. So that will be a total of 6 credits. And I think for our development activation, we're going to activate this one here to take a couple of blueprints. So we will grab, let's see. Well, do we want these? Because I want another complete set. So we're definitely going to grab the 0G Circus. We could take the Astro Spa or the Piano Lounge. Looking at the cost difference, this would be 7 credits. These 2 together would be 6. And when I look at what we have here, we would need either 6 or 7 credits to build those. And we also really need to get this development out of here. That's going to be another 5 credits. So we've got 5 and 6. We better go with the
the piano lounge, because that'll be 6 credits total. And Mr. Alien will start his turn by advancing to a day in space. So he's got one family with one family-oriented activity. And again, families are going to give a resource of your choice. So he will take 1 fuel for that. He has a relaxing guest and 2 activities to do on the ship. Relaxing guests will give a credit, so he will get 2 credits. That's his day in space. He will send his worker out to here, and he's first going to take 2 cards from the market. And then he's going to activate this action here, and he's going to use his newly begotten installation demo. So immediately after building that development, he can spend 1 reputation to take an additional action adjacent to that development. So he's going to develop this out at a cost of 5, which is going to clean him out there. And then he will build his development right there, which now, during his meetings, he has access to a lot of the network that's out here. But then the action that he's going to take is scheduling a cruise. So he'll take his consultant, lock in that cruise right there, and then his upgrade token. Either one of these would be good for him. He's completely out of money, but he's also very low in resources. He's going to take the 4 resources, and he'll split that between those 2 right there. I think for us, we're going to send this guy over to here. And our first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to pay Mr. Alien a coin to use his development so that we can tap into the card market. And for that, we're just going to take the 2 that are on hand here. And we're going to stick one of them there because we're going to use this one right now. We're actually going to take the silo action, and this says when taking that action, first refill 1 to its max. We don't gain any money or rep, but then we get to take 7 resources instead of the usual 3. So not a bad way to go to get some resources. So we are going to fill the oxygen up to the max, and then we'll get 7 resources. So we can only fit 2 fuel. So we will take those 2, which will drop that by 2. And then we'll take 2 food and 3 oxygen, which will empty the food and put the oxygen back right there. But now we're sitting pretty good for resources. I think this is all that we'll need food and oxygen wise for our next big cruise. But we're going to need a little bit more fuel. When I'm looking up over here, we have a 4 fuel cost cruise. We've got 1 discount there from our space elevator. So we need to drum up a way of getting 1 additional fuel, and none of our cards will provide that. So we could tap into this right here, and that might be what we do, but we'll see when we get there. And now Alien is advancing his ship, so he is now arriving at a relaxing destination. So over to here, the first decision is always, do you want to drop off your upgrade token at the destination? Now he's got a decision to make because he has a relaxing destination. He also has a family destination on this cruise. So he could drop off here, or he could save it and drop off over here on his next stop. So with that in mind, all of these benefits here are good in their own way. This one says that whenever you do launch a cruise, you can spend 2 reputation to increase the capacity of that ship by 1. So it's a way to get more tourists onto your ship there. This one here says that whenever you gain reputation, you gain an additional reputation. So every rep is basically 2 rep bumps. This one here allows you to treat your regular workers as if they were expert workers. But if he waits until the next destination, this benefit here says that every time you advance on the reputation track, you gain each of the benefits that you pass. This right here says that whenever you play one of your agenda cards for its ability, then you also gain the resource that's shown in the bottom corner there. And if you ever play the card for the resource itself, you get 2 of those resources. And then this last ability here, normally you're not allowed to place a worker out into the network where you are currently you have a worker at. This allows you to essentially bump your own worker. So with that in mind, he's going to hold off on placing this token out right now. He'll wait and drop it off on that one. Next step, enticing the guests to go out to the destination. Relaxing guests are going to cost 1 ad, and his family guest will cost 2. So he's going to have to pay 3 of his ads to have them embark on the excursion here, which each one of these will then score him 3 points. So he'll get a total of 6 points. And now that that's done, he is out of workers, so he's going to have to call a meeting. Now this is one of the problems with having only 2 workers available to you when one of them is a pilot. You've only got 1 worker out there, so you're bringing them back for meetings quite often. So unlocking these expert workers can be very handy to keep your momentum going. In this case, he's going to have to call this worker back. And for his funding bonus, he'll go ahead and just take a credit. Hey, he's doubled his money. And it's back to us. We technically could launch that ship, but again, we are short on our fuel requirements, which means we would have to tap in to the reputation track here. And I don't love that. So I think instead what we will do is we're going to fix this problem right here. We're going to send this guy to right there, and we're going to take the develop action. And of course, we're going to develop this one right here. So that's going to cost 5 credits. We will spend those. And I think I wouldn't mind, we don't have much presence over here. I wouldn't mind creating some connections here, but this might also be helpful, grabbing this other technology. It's going to give us a bump on the reputation track, which will help us tie up Mr. Alien. This says targeted advertising. All guests cost 1 ad fewer when adding them to a cruise or to the ship. So it's going to make it a little bit easier to get these guys scheduled up for a cruise. Now, for our second action, I think we're going to use our development to come over here, get some supplies. So we're going to spend 2 of our credits, and that will get us 2 ads. Oops, not 3, 2. And 2 resources of our choice. Well, we can only fit one of those. So the next one, we'll go with some food. Alien's cruise will advance to the next destination. And this is the one that he is going to drop off his token. He's going to lock that in right there. So he's going with the benefit that will allow him to get every bonus that he passes as he advances on the reputation track. Then, to entice these guests, it's going to cost 1 plus 2 ads. So it'll take 3 ads. And now he's going to get 4 points per guest for a total of 8 points. First thing he's going to do is play this confidence boost card. Gain the next 4 bonuses listed to the right or previous 4 bonuses listed to the left of your reputation marker. So he is right here, and he's going to go with the ones to the left. So he's going to get 2 ads and 2 resources of his choice. And he will take 2 fuel. And now for his turn, he's going to send his worker out to right there, and he's going to advertise for a cruise. He's going to bring both of these on board. They're each going to cost 1 ad. There are 2 destinations on the cruise, so he will get 4 credits, and there is a matching destination for each of these guys, so he'll get 2 bumps on the reputation track, which will take him up to 11. Now, because of his recently acquired bonus, he will gain a credit and a resource of his choice. So he's going to get a total of 5 credits as a result of the actions on this turn, and then a resource of his choice. Yeah, you know what? He is going with oxygen. Then for his second action, he's going to tap into the NPC's development here, which will cost him 1 credit. And he's going to take the refill the silo action. So he will get rid of one of his cards. And then he can refill any one of these to the max. He's going to boost that one all the way up, and it will get him all 5 credits here, as well as a reputation increase, which of course, with his ability again, is going to get him an extra credit. So he'll get a total of 6 credits. We have a little bit of another dilemma here. We're ready to launch. We can do that. We have all the resources that we need. Everything's good on the checklist. Here's the problem. All we have left is our expert worker. And we can send the expert worker out. That's no problem. But that will tie up the expert worker for the length of that cruise. And I kind of hate to lose the functionality of that. This is not the best one you want to send as a pilot. So with that in mind, I'm thinking let's go ahead and call a meeting, and then we can launch on our next turn. So we will just pull back our 2 workers here. And for the funding bonus, we're just going to keep going with that. So we'll get 4 credits for the funding bonus. And then for our development action, I think what we'll do is take the development action. And looking down at our board here, we're going to clear off the fuel, which is going to cost us 6. So we'll go ahead and spend all of that in credits. Again, of course, we could use fuel, but we need to hang on to that so that we can launch. So we'll take this off, and I think we'll give us access to this grouping here in the future. So that's the end of the meeting, but as we check this step here, we have now completed this goal. We have cleared out 6 developments off of our board. So we can crank that up right there. We will grab this goal here and add it into the progress track right there. Back to Mr. Alien, and his cruise is coming to an end as he returns to Earth, which will send this worker back to the break room for a funding bonus. He will take a resource and he will top off his food supplies. These guests go back to the supply and the cruise goes away. Now, technically, he has what he needs to be able to just launch right back out again. But he didn't care for the fact that that takes him down to 1 worker. So he's going to do something to fix that. He's heading out over to here. And the first thing that he's going to do is take the develop action. He'll develop out the oxygen, which will cost 6. And he could place it in here, but instead he's going to go with the space elevator technology, making it a little cheaper on the fuel requirements. Then for his second action, he is going to hire his own expert worker. So down here, he's got 3 developments, which each cost 2. So it will take his remaining 6 credits, and he can unlock this expert worker, gaining the funding bonus. And given that he's cleaned out of credits, he'll go ahead and take 1 credit back. Okay, we are primed and ready to go for our cruise here. Pre-flight checklist, we've got the cruise scheduled. We have our ship with the cabins, we've got our resources, and we've got our guests ready to go. And now that we don't have to send an expert worker, we will come out over here and go to T-5. So we will take the cruise and add that in right here. Bring our guests on board. T-4. T-3. We have a food cost of 3, 2 for the guest, 1 for the pilot. 3 segments in our ship for 3 oxygen. Cruise cost 4, but with our space elevator, we only need to pay 3. T-2, we're not flipping because it's already flipped, but we will score 1, 2, 3, 4 for the 4 segments across our fleet. T-1, we will add our upgrade token onto the engine. And we have liftoff. And again, the last step is to add a new cruise to the marketing board here. That's going to move all orange, all adventurous, and all family guests down 1. And then we're going to add in 2 guests, which will be the same type of guests. On to Mr. Alien's turn. As much as he would like to launch his cruise, he feels like now is not the right time. Not only will he also tie up his expert worker for several rounds, he doesn't have quite enough ads on hand to entice his guests out to their first destination. So with that in mind, he's going to call a meeting. He's going to bring back his workers here, and he's simply going to take ads for his funding bonus. Now, time is definitely of the essence for him because he can easily look out and see that in our situation, in 2 stops, we're going to be able to drop off this bonus or token right here. And that is going to trigger this goal right here, which then in turn is going to fill this up. So he's got just a round or so before he is shut out of this annual general meeting. So he definitely wants to launch and get a cube up in there so that he can participate in that as well. So for right now, he's called his meeting, he's got his ads, and he should be set up for next time. And for us, we will enjoy a lovely day in space. We have 2 family guests and 2 family activities that can take advantage of. And as a reminder, our family guests are going to give us a resource of our choice. So we're going to get a total of 4 resources of our choice. And I think we will take 3 fuel and 1 oxygen. And then for our turn, the things that we should take a look at here are we have a family destination and an adventurous destination in our very near future here. When these arrive here, we're just going to need 2 ads to get both of them planet side. No problem there. But when we get to the adventurous destination, they're both going to need a bit of convincing, so we'll need 4 ads on hand to get them planet side there. So we need to generate a couple of ads in the next couple of rounds here. The other thing I'm looking at is we need more credits. We want to build these out, which will complete our 3rd set for this objective here. And we have 4 plus 2 minus 2 discounts. So we need 4 credits. So we need to get 3 more credits on hand, 2 more ads on hand to take care of the goals we have in our immediate future here. So I think what we will do is send our expert worker out to this location here, which will bump this expert worker. And again, because we are using an expert worker to bump, we will get a funding bonus for that. And the expert worker NPC bumping rules, again, the way that they work is they will skip over empty spaces unless there are no other options. And in this case, they're not going to bump their own workers, so there are literally no other options other than empty spaces. So that will go there. Ours will go here, and we will gain a funding bonus. And we might as well gain one of those ads that we're looking for. So now for here, we're going to take this refill option. And that's going to give us a reputation bump. The second ad that we needed. A credit. And a resource of our choice. And let's take some food. This time we won't forget to fill the market row. Oh, I'm just realizing this open source card is only used when you're playing with one of the expansions. It's the Advancements expansion. This one specifically deals with there are different types of technology tiles that you use in the Advancements expansion. And those technologies actually have little tracks on them with little cubes that will advance every time you use the technology, eventually upgrading that technology, making it a little better. But in this case, we're not playing with that. That was shuffled in from before. So we're going to replace that with a card that actually works for the game right now. For our second action, we're going to refill the silo here. And to do that, we have a few cards we could choose from. In this case, they're all pretty good. This will let us pay 1 credit and gain 3 resources and 3 ads when we take this action right there. So 1 credit to get even more. That's pretty good. And I think we might try to rely on that to get some of our resources. This one here is when you call a meeting, then you gain 3 additional funding bonuses. We could really tap into that to get some good cash on hand. This one's pretty good too. It's similar. You gain an additional 4 credits when you call a meeting. I hate to get rid of any of these, but I'm thinking we'll get rid of the angel investor, which will give us credits right now. We'll lose 1 credit in the bargain because this would have given us 4 during calling a meeting, but by discarding it now, we can refill this for 1, 2, 3 credits and a reputation bump, which will take us up to there. So that'll give us 3 credits right now, which will give us enough cash on hand that on our next turn we could go ahead and build these instead of having to wait for calling a meeting and getting the cash. So hopefully that's the smart move. That's what we're doing. And it's go time for Alien here. He's going to launch. So he's coming down here to T-5. He will send his consultant back. He'll grab the cruise and his guests. And T-4, which of course helps him to participate in the score that's about to take place. T-3, he will have a food cost of 3, 2 passengers and 1 pilot, 3 segments on the ship for 3 oxygen, fuel cost of 4, but again, he does have the space elevators technology now, so that will be a fuel cost of 3 for him. T-2, he will load his upgrade token into the engine. Oh, I'm sorry. Nope, that's the wrong step. T-2 is scoring the cockpit, which is going to be 4 points for the 4 ship segments. Now, T-1 with the upgrade token. And then we have liftoff. And with this turn finished up, we will now trigger the second annual general meeting. And here we have 2 cubes. Mr. Alien has 1 cube, but again, he is in the lead on this track. So he will calculate as if he has an extra cube up here. So we both have 2 cubes. We both have 2 wings icons showing. So we will both score 4 points. And then, of course, in our 2-player game, we're going to add in 3 more of the developments, and we will upgrade this final regular worker into the last expert worker. So for the placement of the last developments, it will be this right here. So this indicates the technology right there. This one here. And the last one will go right there. Now, as we head into the final stretch here, 3 more progress cubes is going to trigger the end of the game. Whenever the final progress cube is placed, that 3rd progress cube is placed up here, we will finish out the current round so that everyone gets the same number of turns. And then we're going to take 1 final turn each. And that's going to be a little bit special. Once that end is triggered and we've all taken the same number of turns, the first thing that we do is we will bring all of our workers back off of the network into the break room, gaining funding bonuses as usual. Now, this is not calling a meeting, so we won't get to activate our developments and take an action. We're just going to basically bring all of our workers back so that we have somebody on hand to be able to take our last turn, which we will then do in turn order. You get one final regular turn, and then the very last thing that happens is any of your cruises that are out, you can advance the pilot on that cruise to any destination that is on the cruise. It could be several steps away, it could be the next step away. So all of your cruises will advance one final time to whichever destination you want. Once that is done, then we move into final scoring. So the race is now on to place the last 3 cubes into here to trigger the end of the game. And indeed, the race is on because we're about to add a cube into there right now. We have just arrived at our first destination on our cruise, and it is a family-oriented one. So our guests will embark on that. First thing that we're going to do is drop our upgrade token into one of these spots. We could do it here. We do have another destination coming up, which is right here, but there's no way we need a fleet of 4 size 4 ships, and we're so close to the end of the game that while we would get 3 funding bonuses right now, I don't think this one makes a lot of sense for us to tap into. Of the options available to us, again, considering how close we are to the end of the game, this one could be helpful, but I'm not super worried about gaining all of the bonuses that we would come across on the reputation track. So I'm really looking at these ones here. Whenever we play an agenda card, we will be able to always get the resource that's in the bottom of it. That can be helpful. I also like this one here where we're allowed to bump our own workers. This would give us the ability to double up on a particular location, to either get some resources or some of the agenda cards that could be helpful, or keep going to the silo. So I'm thinking maybe this one. Honestly, I'm not sure exactly how helpful either of these will be this late in the game, but we'll go with this one in case we do want to double tap a location or two. So with that locked in, we need to pay the ads for the tourists who are on this adventure. They will each cost 1 ad. And now they will each score 3 + 1 or 4 points. So we will get 8 points. For our actions, we're going to bump this NPC expert, who will skip empty spaces, and normally would skip our own space, except for the fact that we just unlocked the ability to bump our own workers. So we can bump our own worker out, which will bring him back, and we will gain a funding bonus as usual. And we have the ads that we're going to need for these guys on that destination. We have the money that we need for this, and we should end up with the resources that we need as soon as we take our turn at the supply station there. I'm tempted to go with the victory point, but I don't know if that's short-sighted, if it'd be better to have some ads or money on hand for some future actions. I guess we'll work on getting some ads in case we do want to try to schedule up, or rather advertise to a cruise here in a little bit. I don't know if we'll have time for that or not, but we'll see. So over to here, we're going to go ahead and take this action. And of course, we do have the loyalty program, so we can pay 1 credit only to gain both 3 resources of our choice and 3 ads instead of the options listed. So we will pay the 1 credit. and we will gain 3 ads, and then 3 resources of our choice. We know we will need, there's 2 of those, and there's the 3rd resource, so we should be set if we wanted to do another launch. And then our second action is we will use our development to build new segments onto our ship. So that's these guys here, cost of 4 and a cost of 2, both discounted by 1. This is going to cost 4 credits to build. That is exactly what we have on hand. Actually, I'm going to make a little bit of change for our ads. And we'll take these. Oh dear, we are out of room. Something like that. You know what, I'll stick these ads right there. And now that our actions are done, when we check our progress here for the goals, we have actually accomplished both of these goals here. We have dropped off tokens on 2 different planets, so that will push that up to 3 and unlock this cube for us. And we now have 3 complete sets of icons. We've got 1, 2, 3 of the blue, 3 orange, and 3 purple. So that will unlock both of those, which puts us 1 progress cube away from triggering the end of the game. Either that's going to be us launching, or if Mr. Alien can get himself a goal here, we'll see. And as he begins his next turn, he will arrive at a relaxing destination. First step is to drop off this token if he would like, but he's going to hold off on that. He's likely, well, he's going to be using it on his adventurous destination. So to entice these out, it will cost 1 plus 2, or all 3 of his ads, and that will score him 3 points each for a total of 6 points. Looking at our view right here, I'm just realizing that we forgot to add a cruise in the last time when we launched. So this will come out to right there. And then we're going to advance all of the family guests and all the relaxing guests. We will bring in 2 more, and it is going to be another family and another relaxing guest. And for his action, he is going to schedule a cruise. He's going to lock in this one right here. And then for his bonus token, he's going to take this one and get 4 ads. And then for his second action, he's going to advertise to that cruise. And he's going to bring in this guest for 1 of those ads that he just got. There's a matching destination, which will give him a reputation bump. And there is a destination for 1 credit. So he will get 1 credit and 1 reputation. And of course, that will give him now a resource of his choice. And he'll take the fuel. Over to us. And I just realized our guest almost got left planet side. And bring them back where they should be. Our pilot will advance to our next day in space. And so we have these guys here will once again pay us out a total of 4 resources of our choice. We actually only have room for 3, so that's all right. Now for our action, I think we want to do something similar. We're going to send our expert worker out, and we will bump Mr. Alien here and take this action here. And for his funding bonus, he's going to take 1 credit. Now for our turn, we are going to schedule up this cruise right there. For the upgrade token, we are good on resources and ads, so I think we'll actually go ahead and take this victory point. And then for our second turn, we're going to advertise to, actually as I'm saying that, I'm going to reverse that decision, I think, and we're going to take that point back. Now, hopefully we don't lose the game by 1 point. But here's what I'm thinking. We're about to spend these ads to advertise, and we know that we're going to need ads, a couple of them, to get these guys planet side over here. And if we can get another cruise out, we're definitely going to need even more ads, to do the same thing. So being a little forward looking here, I think we will take this upgrade token to get us 4 more ads. Seems like a lot of ads right now. Hopefully it's not overkill in that regard. But now that we have those, let's go ahead and schedule up that cruise. And we're going to take these 2 here, which is going to cost the 4 ads that we just got. And then we'll bring them in. And of course, there's a destination that matches each of them for 2 reputation. 2 destinations, 2 people, that's going to be 4 credits, 2 reputation. On to Mr. Alien, and he had the same thing. He left his people planet side. Day in space. And so he's got 2 purple icons here. So that's going to give him 2 credits. And he's got 2 orange icons, which will give him 2 ads. He's going to send his expert worker out, and he's going to bump us, which means we get to take a funding bonus. So what the heck? Why don't we grab that point that we kept toying with? And then he's going to grab a couple of blueprints. He's going to take these 2 right here. And then his second action, he's going to go there. But he does have a card on hand called Bulk Transaction. Instead of choosing the listed options, he can refill 1 in his personal supply to its max for free. In this case, he's going to pay 1 credit to refill 2 of his supplies to their max. So looking over here, he's going to pay 1 credit and take both of these up to their max. He's got 1 fuel on hand, which means he actually has the fuel requirements he needs for that trip there. We will arrive at our next destination here, and neither of these are at a preferred destination. They're going to take a little more coaxing, so it's going to cost us these 4 ads. But that will get us 8 more points. And this time we are not going to leave them planet side. Now with the race in mind, it's no time like the present. I think we launch our final cruise here. So we will bring this guy over to T-5. Our consultant goes back. We'll grab the cruise and our guests. Add that in right there. T-4. We'll add in that final cube. Now obviously this is going to trigger the end of the game. You'll notice this little section right here. If more cubes are generated during this time, you can continue to stack them into the overflow here. They will factor into our scoring. Now I didn't mention this explicitly earlier, but the way that this is going to work, we will not do this third annual general meeting until we have gone through all of these steps. So we're going to finish this round. We're going to pull our workers back. We're all going to take another turn and advance our cruises. And in that amount of time, any cubes that can be generated will be dropped off right here. Once all of those steps are done, we'll go ahead and call that annual general meeting, and then we'll do our final scoring. Back to T-3. 3 food needs for the 2 guests and the pilot. 3 ship segments for 3 oxygen. 4 fuel, -1 for the space elevator for 3 fuel. T-2. In this case, we get to flip this cockpit, being the first launch. And now we're going to score it. This one says we will score 3 points for every complete set of icons. And as we had discovered, we now have 3 sets times 3. That will be 9 more points. T-1. Bonus token onto the engine. And we have liftoff. Over to Mr. Alien. He is enjoying a day planet-side. Over to here. And he's going to slot this in right here, which will instantly give him a funding bonus for all of the cubes that he has in the progress track. And in this case, he has 3 cubes up there, so he will get 3 funding bonuses. He's going to take 3 adds. Any cube that he adds in there from now on is going to get him another funding bonus. Then he has to pay for these guys to be here, and that is going to be 3 adds. And then he will score 4 points for each, for a total of 8 more points, which will take him for his action. He's going to send out this worker right here so that he can build his segments into his ship. This one cost 1 plus 2 for a total of 3 credits. That is built. And now he's going to use his development to advertise for a cruise. Now it might seem like a kind of an odd choice to advertise, but he only has 1 credit. He really wants to hang on to these ads. And with that 1 credit, it doesn't make sense to spend it to come over here. He doesn't need blueprints, and he wouldn't have money to do that. So in this case, he's going to advertise, and he's going to pay one of those precious ads to advertise and entice this to right there. Now there is a matching destination, so he will get 1 reputation bump, which will move him right there and get him that ad back. And remember that being in the lead on this track gives him 1 extra cube. So there's the ad. And then with 2 destinations, this guest will pay 2 credits. And once again, looking at this marketing board, I'm realizing I have forgotten to refill the cruise, which will then, of course, cause all of our relaxing guests to come down, as well as our adventurous guests. There were 2 guests that embarked on that, so we will again see one of each come back out. Okay, with that done, that finished Mr. Alien's turn, which is that right there. So now we move into this part where we're going to pull all of our workers back, gaining a funding bonus, but again, not activating any developments and taking an action in that regard. We're just recalling our workers. So for us, we'll come back, and I think we're just going to take a victory point. And Mr. Alien is going to pull both of these workers back, and for each of his funding bonuses, he's going to take an ad. And now we come back to us. We're each going to take one more turn just as normal. Normal turns. Then when that turn is done, we're going to advance all of our cruises that are still out wherever we would like, and then we'll go into final scoring. So our first thing is he returns to Earth, which will remove these, and then he will come back for a funding bonus. And again, I think we'll just take a victory point for our funding bonus. And then we'll advance our next cruise, which will take these guests to an adventurous destination. And first thing we're going to do is drop off this upgrade token. I'm also going to slot it in right here. Now for this one, we're going to get a funding bonus for all of our cubes. We have 6 cubes on the progress track. We'll take 2 of those in the form of of ads. So 2 ads, and then the other 4 funding bonuses we will take in the form of points. Actually, I'm going to do a total of 5 ads, and then that last funding bonus we will just take in the form of a point. And then for our actions, let's send him out right there, and we are going to advertise for a cruise. And I think we're going to send this one and this one. So it's going to cost us 3 of those ads. We're going to send them up to there. And again, to state this explicitly, you can advertise any guest onto a cruise as long as it's not a cruise that's been reserved by your opponent. So we've sent both of them there. They both have a destination they would like to see. That'll give us 2 reputation. There are 2 destinations, so they each pay out 2 credits. So we'll get 4 credits, 2 reputation. We did this for 2 primary reasons. Number 1, this puts us ahead on the reputation track. If we stay there, then we'll have an extra cube during our scoring. But also, very importantly, if you notice these victory point lines here, now that we've reached space 15, we will get 15 victory points at the end of the game. Whereas if we had remained back here, we would score 8 points. So, nice little 7-point jump there. And then I think for our last action, we're going to pay 1 resource to interact with this section over here. So, sorry, not a resource. We're going to pay a credit to interact with that section over there. So we'll pay 1 credit and then activate something over here. Now, the reason why we're doing this is at the end of the game, every 3 resources is basically a third of a point. You're going to add up your credits, your resources, ads, agenda cards, and blueprints, divide them by 3. So all of those elements are basically a third of a point. So I'm thinking we can get rid of a third of a point to hopefully acquire, an extra point or two. And look at what we have here. Let's go ahead and get rid of this card here. That will allow us to refill the silo. We're going to push this up to go there, which will give us 2 credits and a reputation, which will give us a resource and a little bit further lead on that. So we can take the resource and the 2 credits. I don't know, maybe that netted us something, I'm not sure, but if nothing else, it gave us a little bit more of a lead on the reputation track. So that is our final full turn done. Now it's over to Mr. Alien, and he is quite desperate to get this ship launched. But before he does, his first cruise is returning back to Earth. And these guys will get removed. This cruise will go away. And he will gain a funding bonus. And for his funding bonus, he is also going to take a point. Then for his turn, he's launching that cruise. So come over here to T-5. So he will bring this cruise and the guest to here. And he is actually going to, for the first time in the game and the last opportunity to do so, he's going to do what's called a last-minute sale. You are allowed to pay 4 credits to bring a guest in from the supply into your cruise ship. So that's what he's going to do. He's just going to add in 1 more family guest. T-4 will allow him to add in a cube into the overflow. T-3, he now has 3 food costs, 3 oxygen, and 2-1 for the space elevator fuel cost. T-2, he fortunately will get to flip this and not lose 5 points. And then, very importantly, he will get to score this. Now this cockpit says that you will score 5 points for every ship that has a victory point value of 8 amongst its segments. This one only has 5, but this one does have 8. So that'll get him 5 points. T-1, you will add that in, and he has liftoff. So that will complete his final full turn. And now that we've done that, we now go into this stage right here where we're going to advance any of our cruises that are currently out in space to any destination along their itinerary. So for us, we're definitely going to visit this family destination, and I have gotten in the habit of leaving my people behind. So here we are at this family destination. They are going to come over here, and that's going to cost us a total of 3 ads, and it will score us 8 more points. And with that advancement, our game is full and complete. Now we come over to Mr. Alien, and he is also going to advance this cruise up to his family destination. He will drop this off. Now these upgrades are not going to matter for him at all, but it will increase the number of victory points that these guests pay out. Now they're each only going to take 1 ad to entice, so he's paid that. And now each of them will score a total of 5 points. So he will get a total of 10 points. And with that advancement, Mr. Alien's game is done and complete, which means it is time to head into the third and final annual general meeting. And this one will include all of our endgame scoring, which is marked here. The first thing that we will score is the cockpits. And this is going to work just like we saw all throughout the game. So each of our cockpits are going to score based on their particular criteria. We're just going to do that one more time for each of our cockpits. So in this case, this one's going to score points for every segment on our ship. So that's going to give us 6 points. This is going to score us 3 points for every complete set, which is going to be 3 complete sets for a total of 9 points. So our cockpits are going to give us 15 points. Alien's cockpits will score 6 points for this one here, 1 point for every segment. And then this one is 5 points for every ship that has 8 victory points built into it. He's only got the one again, so he'll score 11 points for his cockpits. A quick note from the editing booth. As I'm editing the video, I realized with everything going on at the end here, I completely overlooked scoring our developments, which is clearly shown in the final scoring box right next to the cockpits. As you can see on our player boards, each column of developments has a victory point value shown at the top of the column. You will score points for your rightmost empty column. In our case, we cleared the second column, so we should have received 15 more points. Alien, on the other hand, he didn't get quite as many out, so he only cleared his first column. But he should have received 5 more points. Sorry about that. Our final scores should have been boosted just a little bit on account of that oversight. Then we will score based on where we are at on the reputation track. And again, we are at the 15-point mark. Mr. Alien is at 8 points. We get 15 there. Next up, we will score victory points based on the value of each of the segments that are inside our ships. Those are the victory points listed right there. And we have a total of 10 points right there. And Mr. Alien has a total of 13 points. Next category is going to be scoring the cubes on the progress track, just like we've done before. In this case, we have 3, and we are in the lead on the reputation track. So we have 4 cubes present, and we have 4 of those symbols showing for 16 points. And Alien has 1 cube showing and 2 symbols for a total of 2 points. And the last thing that we will get points for is our leftovers. Again, all credits, resources, ads, agenda cards, and blueprints. You add those all together, divide it by 3, and you'll score that many points. We have a total of 16 of these left over between our credits, ads, and resources. So that'll give us 5 extra points. Mr. Alien has a total of 5 left over, so he will get 1 point. So the final score has us with the victory at 118 to Mr. Alien's 102. And I I thought he was going to have it. We were a good way into the game, and he had a lot of good momentum and sizable lead on us. I thought he was going to run away with it, which, hey, makes sense. It would be out in the stars. That's his home turf. But we were able to turn that around and turn it into a victory for ourselves. So that's Galactic Cruise. That's how it works. A lot of interconnected parts, but at the same time, it flows really well and makes a lot of thematic sense, all of the various actions that you're doing. Now, one thing to note, I'll tell you a little bit about some of the extra components and ways that you can shake this game up a little bit. We talked before that there are other technologies that you can put out here. Every aspect of the network and these technologies is variable. The game comes with tiles for each of these actions, and so you can shuffle all of those tiles up and place them out here, and the order, or rather the configuration of the actions that are in the network here, they will be different every single game that you play, which can drastically change your strategies and your synergies and where you're putting out developments and having to tap into other people's networks. So just that one element alone can keep the game fresh every single time. And then, of course, those technologies that are out on the top. There are a variety of technologies that will give you different bonuses and benefits. So which ones come out there will have a fairly large impact. The goals that you're shooting for, that can really drive what type of ships you're building or the things that you're chasing after. So a lot of variety in the base box. And then on top of that, as I mentioned, there are a couple of expansions. There's the advancements, there's an accommodations expansion, and those will change up the types of blueprints that you have access to, and like I said, technologies and so forth. There's a lot that's sprinkled in there. So a tremendous amount of variety that you get across the board with this game. Well, hopefully this gave you a good sense of how this game plays. And woof, by the time we got toward the end there, there's all kind of little things I was forgetting. Like, look at this. I've left every one planet side once again and forgot to refill that cruise there. But yeah, but there's a lot happening in the decision spaces here, and all of that mental bandwidth, it was soaked up in the puzzle that's in front of you. But let me know what you think. I'd love to hear what you had to think about the game, and yeah, hopefully you got something out of the playthrough here. Hope you enjoyed it, and until the next time, I will see you at our next expedition.